everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast and Merry Christmas. And we're very excited today. We are here with Tia Maggini, and she is the Senior Vice President of Lifetime Original Movies. And we love having the folks at Lifetime on every year to talk about their It's a Wonderful Lifetime slate. And thank you so much, Tia, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Rachel. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so this is your first time on the show. And so why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you ended up in this position at Lifetime? What's your journey been?
So my name is Tia Maggini. Like you said, I'm the SVP of movies over at Lifetime, and I've been at Lifetime for 10 and a half years. So quite some time. Before that, I started my career in book publishing. I was a
Oh,
book
okay.
editor right out of school, and then I came to Los Angeles in like 2002, worked on the feature side for a number of different producers, and then eventually made my way to Lifetime, yeah, where I've been for more than 10 years now.
Mhm. Have
So,
you always been like a movie lover, somebody who enjoyed movies, television?
yes, I would say was a book lover first, who also really loved
Hmm.
movies and TV, and I sort of balance them all now, but
Hmm.
love all three.
Yeah. So that's really interesting because like romance as far as publishing is like just having this incredible moment. I mean, it's basically saving publishing right now.
They really
It's
are.
it's it's incredible as a category. And I've been so like confused at why I don't feel like, especially feature films, why they haven't jumped on that bandwagon more.
You know,
Why they're leaving that to the streamers and to the to the to why they're leaving out to the streamers and to TV. What do you think? What's going on?
I think a lot of it has to do with movie studios, if we're talking proper sort of,
Yeah, yeah.
movie studios needing to hit a four quadrant audience. And so, I mean, one of the reasons that I shifted from working for feature producers into television is that so many of the things that I loved were no longer things that the studios were doing. They want either a Marvel movie, or they want a Judd Apatow movie. Like they want
Yeah.
big broad comedy, and all of those things that we loved. I mean, speaking for myself and my own age, the rom-coms, the romances, the 90s movies, whether it was Meg Ryan or
Yeah.
did
Sandra Bullock.
yeah, they stopped really kind of making those. I mean, I think in part because of the need to try to hit that four quadrant audience in order to have the biggest possible reach, in order to sell toys and merch and rides
Yeah.
and all of those things. And so it's really where cable first and then streamers have sort of stepped in. And I was really excited to see something like the Anne Hathaway movie. Um, why am I spacing on the name now?
The idea of you.
The Idea of
Yeah.
You, because that felt like a good movie from that era that you were like, yes, good. We haven't had something like this for a while. And it was really well executed.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that that leads to more of those.
It's just frustrating though because in like the 90s that thing would have probably made 80-90 million dollars.
Yeah.
And it'd been a pretty big hit. I still think there's that potential. Like you see something like It Ends With Us in
Mhm.
theaters that it does really well and is a surprise hit. And
Or the Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney movie that did
yeah,
really, really
yeah,
well. And then,
it's
once again,
interesting.
studios, something like that happens and then they're like, oh, this is an anomaly. And you're like, no, women want good romances and rom-coms. What we didn't have for a long time was good ones. We had a lot of really schlocky
Yeah.
studio fare, and I think people got out of the habit, but the good ones people show up for.
Hmm.
People love a good romance. And when I worked in publishing, I started out at Avon Books. So, and that
Hmm.
was really in the 90s, that moment where it was like the Fabio covers, and it was everybody from Kathleen Woodowis to authors who are still writing today. But that was really a big moment in romance. And then I think it really dwindled for a while as the audience changed. I think that that audience, it had been, those romances were like the pirates and the bodice rippers and the like, that sort of old school romance, which don't get me wrong, I still love.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
faded and it dwindled for a bit, but now I think romance is really coming back, but much stronger for contemporary romance. And I
Mhm.
think it's interesting because I feel like as a conflict, pirates have been replaced by childhood trauma, maybe a
Yeah, I
little
mean,
too much,
but
but
it's almost like anything in romance can hit nowadays when, I mean, because look at like Bridgerton. I mean,
yeah.
so the historical escapism,
Thank you,
Outlander,
Shonda
huge,
Rhimes. Yeah, I mean,
when it's
Shonda
done well.
really let everybody know that that could do well. But
Hmm.
there's been a lot of books out there that I think were a little more formulaic, and I think they were a lot of period things, which is expensive and hard to do. And now that
Hmm.
you've got people like your Emily Henrys and your others
Mm.
who are writing things that feel really kind of fun and fresh and a little more contemporary rom-com-y rather than the old formula of romance, which again there's a lot of things to like about that old formula,
Hmm.
but I think this new flowering might be a little bit more
Hmm.
cinematic. And so maybe can pop a little bit more and maybe we'll be I feel like
Yeah.
every time I turn around one of these books from Emily Henry to Colleen Hoover, et cetera, are getting picked up for adaptations. So hopefully we'll be seeing more.
Yeah, and like look at like Red, White, and Royal Blue, a
Mm-hmm.
huge, and now it's getting a
Mm-hmm.
sequel. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting to watch, and I mean, because for so long the only movies that Hollywood was making were for 17-year-old boys. It
Yeah.
like had to appeal to a 17-year-old boy, and you just think if something like Barbie doesn't make them wake up and be like, no, there's this huge market that's
I
looking for.
feel like Hollywood has to be reminded like every other year that like women buy more tickets than anyone else. So why aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, the sad part is they look at something like Barbie and like, oh, I guess we need to make more movies about toys, and you're like, no,
No, that wasn't the takeaway.
that's not the
I agree.
takeaway.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind the scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies. Well, Lifetime, it seems like that I've had a pretty successful year this year, particularly with some reality TV things and from the, rip from the headlines programs. What's that been? How do you feel about this year for Lifetime?
A lot of this year has been a little bit of a rebuilding year post strike. We were
Mm-hmm.
excited to sort of come back after hiatus, and we put on nearly double the number of movies, at least from the headlines movies. Um,
Mm.
Starting sort of in May, we were able to have movies sort of back up on air. But I would say our big success story this year that had been a new thing that we were trying, and it really did nicely, was romance.
Mm.
We wanted to try to be in the romance space a little bit more in our own original way. And we started in the area of Black romance. We had
Mm-hmm.
done a couple years ago a couple movies with Mary J. Blige producing based on two of her songs, Real Love and Strength of a Woman. And those were a little bit outliers because they were just romantic dramas. And they did great. And the audience really responded well. And they said, we want more romance. We want more romance in this space. We want more romance for a Black audience showing Black love that is just life affirming and family affirming and not rooted in trauma. And we were like, let's try that. So we came in with two original movies. One that was very kind of Stella got her groove back with Garcelle Beauvais, and then another one that was just a big, juicy, weepy drama called Forever. And Terry McMillan came in and attached herself as a producer to both. So we did two movies under a Terry McMillan Presents banner, and they both did really nicely. The audience really liked them, and they've been, watching a ton of it online. And so we're getting a lot of repeat views there. And so that has sort of told us like, yes, there is really still a white space here. And I think that space between what Hallmark is doing and does so well and a Bridgerton like isn't completely filled. Like I do think there's more space for us to get in for romance that feels a bit more grounded, a bit more real life, less rom-com and more sort of adult romance. I don't mean adult, romance, but a little messier, a little more grown up, a little bit more drama rather than rom-com. And so that's a space that we're excited to try to play in a little bit more, both in Christmas and beyond.
Well, I think that's great. We did our Mahogany cast did a recap of Tempted by Love, and it did very well for us. And so you never know when you do these kind of like bonus one-off kind of episodes if they'll do that well, and it did very well for us. Great. And so that doesn't surprise me, and I think that's really smart because there is this group in between the sweetness of the wholesomeness, the chasteness of your Hallmark, and then and then on the sort of the other end, you've got your like Virgin River, and you've got your Bridgerton, and there's a little, and so I do think there's something there that you could, especially for diverse with diverse casts and things.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Well, we're really leaning in. It's making us happy, and to do a couple movies about grown-up love. In one case, about a woman in her 50s who has an affair with the younger guy, which somehow, without realizing it, everybody in town has had this idea. Funny, you've got a bunch of like female execs in their 50s who are all like, how about we do a younger guy romance? Like, how could this confluence have happened? I don't know. But we were certainly part of that. And the other one we did too, Forever, is just a really lovely movie with a good sort of weepy. I don't know if you've had a chance to sample that one, but it came out really beautifully with Taye Diggs and Megan Good.
I have not seen that one, but I definitely.
It's a genuine weepy in a way where every cut that I watched made me ugly cry, and I am a crier. So.
Is it hard when you're doing the rip from the headlines? Is it hard to decide what stories to pick? Some are probably obvious because they're just so high profile, but
I mean, some are obvious because they're so high profile. And then we have a lot of filters that we use as we look at them. People pitch us true crimes every day, as you can imagine. Sure. Like I get, when something crazy happens, I get about 15 emails going like, oh my God, did you see this thing?
Yeah.
And our filter is it female forward? Is there a great sort of emotional female story at the center? If it's just a serial killer who's killing women, like why is that a movie for us? It's got to have a protagonist that we're rooting for. If it's just some terrible true crime about a guy who kills his wife in an awful way and tries to get away with it and fails, like that doesn't, who am I rooting for? Not that guy. We look for twists and turns to keep you busy for 2 hours, and we need an ending. There's a lot of great true crimes that are still unsolved, and that makes for a great 2020, but it doesn't make for a great movie. So using that filter and just sort of our own gut of would I show up for this on a Saturday night is sort of how we look at stuff. But yeah, any crazy thing that's happening out there, we're definitely thinking about it.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Because I enjoyed the Mary Bailey movie. We had her on, and Greg McBride, the writer, and I thought that was actually it wasn't. I don't know. There's sometimes these rip from the headlines can feel like it can have the impression of being like on the trashy side, but I thought that Mary Bailey's story was actually quite inspirational.
We try. I mean, Victor is obviously our sort of number one. You want a story where someone comes out ahead at the end. We want stories that ultimately, empower women and allow them to tell their stories their way. So
Yeah.
not everyone ends in the most positive ways, but those are our favorites, the ones where someone succeeds and triumphs and survives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the new Gift Wrap Romance Sweet Clean series, available now wherever you purchase books. Looking for some cheerful escapism this holiday season? Snuggle up with a cup of hot cocoa and lose yourself in 5 festive tales of romance with the new book series, Gift Wrapped Romance. These 5 funny and feel-good books have all the jolly hallmarks of perfect holiday reading. Twinkling lights, mistletoe kisses, and plenty of Christmas cheer. Swoon over your new book boyfriends as they find love in the most magical season of all. Find the books wherever you do your book shopping this holiday season, or use the affiliate link in the description below. So you ended up with announcing 12 films this year for It's a Wonderful Lifetime. What was kind of your thought process in these 12 films, and how did you go about deciding this one's a Lifetime pick?
Sure. Well, we are a little bit divided in terms of how we acquire the movies. We have an originals team who puts together 4 to 5 a year that we sort of bake from scratch, and then we have our sister team who we work closely with, who sort of helps fill in a lot of the gaps too. But I think that going into this, and we've had the years where we've had 30 movies, and we're now I think a little bit more leaner and meaner. I think we've passed peak Christmas. I think we've gotten to a place where there's so much Christmas content out there that we felt like, we want to sort of lean in and make sure we're doing better rather than just more. And I think on the original side, deliberately, we've sort of made a choice to prioritize things that felt a little different than what Hallmark was doing. There's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of stories of girls who go home to their hometown and, and I'm not saying that's what Hallmark is doing. They obviously have a wide range of things too, but I think we've sort of felt like some of that storytelling felt tired to us that we've done. And so we wanted to do something different. And I think that we can zig where Hallmark is zagging because Hallmark does what they do so well. But our audience isn't exactly the same as Hallmark's. And I don't think that the Christmas audience is a monolith and different people like different things. And so it felt important to us, and probably that we hope the way to succeed was to do something that felt like it was Lifetime-y rather than Hallmark-y. And so with the originals specifically, we kind of leaned into things that felt a little bit different. And then even with the movies that the acquisitions team picked up, I think we were looking for stuff that kind of like provided a little bit of a balance to those, but also stuff and talent that felt sort of specific to Lifetime.
Yeah. I love that. Well, so let's talk about the individual movies. So one I wanted to focus on is Christmas in the Spotlight. So this is your kind of Taylor Swiftian fan fiction-y kind of a movie. What do you think about that? And can you tell the audience a little bit about it?
Well, this was my baby. I am this is a Swiftie movie by Swifties for Swifties from a place of 100% Swiftie love. I am a huge Swiftie, and I thought, wow, this feels like a Christmas movie. And I was like, wait a minute, we could do that. And I reached out to Irene Donahue, who I've worked with a number of times and who is such a great writer and a good friend and smart and funny. And she is a huge, huge Swiftie. We had already had a friendship that where she would be sending me like song lyrics and things and posts, and she went to the concert, and I knew she would be the perfect person, and she knocked it out of the park. And the script came in super, super cute, and we were excited to move forward right away. And we put a great team of producers and a lady director together, all of whom were Swiftie fans too. And it came out really, really cute. I don't know if you've seen it yet. But I really love it. And I think it sort of stands as just a really fun movie, regardless of whether you've ever heard of Taylor Swift or not. I think it's just a really fun, pleasurable watch. One of my colleagues who hadn't really seen much of it had watched 5 minutes, not knowing what the movie was about. And he was like, I just want to live in this world. And that's kind of how I feel about it. It's just pleasurable.
Well, it sounds really fun. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. And
We
was
do an
it,
early copy.
yeah, no, I would love to.
Yeah.
Was it hard to cast it? Get like just the right kind of,
We deliberately decided to go with actors who were fresh to our
Mhm.
audience, who hadn't been in Christmas movies before, who hadn't done
Okay.
anything quite like it. I think we knew that finding like a singer to do it was never going to work. Like we had to go with somebody who you're just kind of coming in fresh to, and our actor. Lath, he was a former professional football player, so that was really important to me to find somebody who was a fresh face, B, conceivably a football player, and luckily we got a pro football player, and just had that great kind of golden retriever energy that you
Mm.
want from that. Like a good looking guy, but also just like bubbly and
Like
fun,
a teddy bear.
that guy.
Yeah.
And he so over delivered. He did a really fantastic job, and she is great in it too. So yeah, I
Oh,
really love
that's
how it
great.
came out, and I hope people really like it.
That's
Swifties and
great.
non-Swifties alike, I think there's something for everybody in it.
Nice. That'll be really, really good.
But it
You're,
does have little Easter eggs and fun things. There's like a red scarf on a table left
oh,
behind
okay.
that.
Do you have a favorite era? Oh, do you have a favorite era of Taylor?
Oh, I think the Red album will
Mm,
always be my favorite. But
yeah.
yeah, you?
I'm so out of it. I just because I'm just movies are control my
Oh, me
life,
too.
and so I'm kind of out of the music scene, and I went to see the concert just to review it, and I like hardly knew any songs. The people next to me were like knew every line, every song, and I think I knew like 3 or 4 songs. But I guess I would probably lean more towards the folk lore one, the
Okay,
pandemic
okay.
ones. Yeah, that's more my style.
We're deep in your feelings during that time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I mean the most as far as music, what I love the most is show tunes. So
Mm.
that wouldn't be a I love theater and Broadway.
My
So
mom.
yeah. So you're opening up your season with Christmas at Plum Hill Manor.
Mhm.
So this one, Marie Menounos, directed by our friend Brian Herzlinger. He's
Sure.
great.
He's done a
Uh,
number of things for us, some really nice movies.
yeah, we love him, and so that's kind of interesting one to start out with.
Yeah, I think everybody is excited about this movie. This one came to us fully baked. Maria is not only an actress but a producer as well.
Hmm.
She put this movie together, and everybody thinks it's really cute. It's set abroad, so you have like the fun of, wait, is it Scotland? Forgive me, I this wasn't one that I put together, so I'm like, I think it's. Do you know, Kara?
It says English countryside
There we go.
I
It's
think
manor.
it's,
English.
yeah, England.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was England or Scotland, but yes, she goes to a manor, meets a sort of has a meet cute and a love hate relationship right away with a guy from the manor.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the We Three Kings, BB
Mhm.
Winans.
Yeah.
That's interesting to bring in some diversity and that gospel music. You'd had the my mind's just gone blank, but you had the previous gospel singer
Sure. We
did
have
those.
two movies that we did in the gospel space before, both with Kirk Franklin,
That's what it
a
is. Yeah, Kirk Franklin.
terrific producer that we've liked working with very much. We did Kirk Franklin's A Gospel Christmas, which did really well for us like 3 years ago. And then 2 years ago, I did Kirk Franklin's The Night Before Christmas,
Hmm.
both of
Hmm.
which had a nice infusion of music and gospel and faith and family, and both did great. And this was an attempt to do something in that space. We know,
Yeah.
we also really wanted to kind of counter program Hallmark on that Thanksgiving weekend. We
Mm.
that they were going to be coming in hot with their Kansas City movie, and so
Hmm.
we thought it would be a great place to sort of put something for an all Black cast. And we loved this script. It's really emotional. It's the three sisters who have been estranged, and their after their mother has passed, and their father, BB Winans, gospel singer, takes a spill and is in the hospital, and so they have to come back to kind of take care of him and take care of his record shop. And in the process, like they heal their own relationship, but each one of them either finds love or sort of reconnects with someone. And so it's got music, it's got gospel, it's got, sisters and family and sort of, recovering from this loss of their mother. And then each one has a love story. So it really like ticked an awful lot of boxes and is a really nicely emotional, really satisfying story. That's again, it's a little different, it's a little more the rules of Christmas of like, well, no one can really be mad at anyone and no one can really like have any conflict. We've kind of thrown that to the wind over the last couple years. And this is like, for people who know what some real family conflict is like, but it's also leavened with romance and music, and ultimately it's just really a heartwarming, satisfying family story.
I'm really looking forward to it. I have 3 sisters myself, so stories about sisters are always really good. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies. You have continued on diversity. You have a Very Merry Beauty Salon with Tia Maggini, and so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, this was another one that we cooked it up internally. One of my colleagues had been to see a play. We were all in New York, and she had come back from seeing a play about hair braiding. I'm forgetting what the name of the play.
Yeah, the JoJo's African hair. Yeah.
Exactly. And she was feeling really inspired by that. And I was like, like, why don't we do something about hair in a beauty salon for Christmas? And everybody took that and ran with it. And we brought in Tia Maggini early on, and they built a really beautiful, fun film that's as much about not real sisters, but still sort of sisterhood and the friendship between these 3 ladies and a mom. And then you've got a great romance with Tia Maggini. So it has this sort of fun of a beauty shop setting while being a totally original story, and throwing in a great romance too. So it came out really nicely.
That's going to be good. So then the Holiday Junkie, I'm curious about this one with Jennifer Love Hewitt writing and directing and starring.
She did not write it. Did
I write that down wrong?
Yeah, she
Okay.
With a woman named she is multi-talented, but she did not write it as well. She worked with a woman named Anna White, although had a lot of input in it, because in a way it's inspired, not in a way, it is inspired by her her loss of her mother. And so this too is a movie that is I think familiar to our audiences in terms of tone, but a little different because it's about dealing with loss. It's about the holidays can be tough for some people, and this really kind of leans into that. And Jennifer, her mother was the sort of holiday junkie, and she really sort of channeled a lot of her story for this. And while I won't say that it's exactly autobiographical, it certainly is inspired by her missing her mom at the holidays, and her mom being this holiday junkie. And so she really brought a ton of herself to the movie, whether it was, again, working with the writer, whether it's in her directing. We shot it here in Los Angeles, so she was able to gather sort of like friends and family for this. Her kids make cameos. Her husband stars against her. So it's a very personal.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, Brian is her husband, and very cute. And yeah, we were like, okay. And yeah, so it's a really personal movie for her and an emotional one. And we're really, again, happy to do something that feels familiar, and that it's still very much about celebrating and loving the holidays and about holiday decor and the magic of the holidays, while also delving into some things that are a little more weighty.
That sounds good. I'm curious about A Carpenter Christmas Romance. It's our friend Jake Helgren
directing. We love
Yes.
him.
We love Jake.
And then of course written by Sarah Drew. So that's interesting.
Well, we loved Sarah Drew. Sarah Drew is
Mhm.
she's fantastic and has become a good friend. And they knocked it out of the park last year with the Cowboy Christmas Romance.
Mhm.
And I think they knew that there would be a happy home for something else in this space. And so Carpenter was the next selection. Actually, I have to ask you, are there sexy boy professions you would like to see soon? We will kick that to Sarah and
Oh.
Jake to see if we
I mean,
what would
isn't
be
it
next
kind of
year?
like how you can make any costume in any female costume into a sexy girl costume? I feel like it's kind of the
Can
same
you do
thing.
the same
Like
with Guy? I don't
you can,
know.
can't you make almost any job be a hot hunky? I mean, what they
Try.
usually do in these movies is that you'll have the man with many jobs who's
Mm,
just like always there, always doing everything, and is great at everything.
right. The
You
the
know,
sexy
that's
jack
the
of all trades.
ultimate contrast to the bad man of business. You know,
Right.
who's obsessed with work is like your handyman who
Just
is
here to
just
help
like,
out all the
yeah,
time.
it's always,
That is a fantasy.
yeah,
Hmm. Um, Regardless, they
yeah.
went into Carpenter. They hired Mitchell Slaggart, who you may recognize from The Sex Lives of College Girls. He was the very hunky neighbor.
Mm,
I don't know if you've watched that show. He was a very hunky neighbor in that show. And he did a fantastic job as our sexy carpenter. And Sasha Petersy, I think it's Petersy, is how you properly pronounce it. She was great. And she comes to us from Pretty Little Liars.
okay.
And so both of those felt like really fresh and exciting faces for us. So when we, were approached by the producers with this movie, we were really excited to take it on. And it too is another movie that's it's a little weightier and it's definitely sexier. We've got lots of, I mean,
So
my
did you feel like you had a
11-year-old
good
niece could watch it,
response
but
to this steamier movie last year?
we really did.
Yeah.
We did. People, I mean, the movie came out great.
Hmm.
He was, they had great sort of romance and chemistry, and I think the audience really went for it. Again, there's been these sort of rules over the years that I think were started by, the Bill Abbott days at
Hmm.
Hallmark, and everybody felt like, well, that's what we have to do for Christmas. And I don't think we need to. I think the Hallmark audience is different from the Lifetime audience. I don't think the Lifetime audience is used to co-viewing with their family. I don't think there's an expectation that you have to be G-rated
Right.
because your
That makes
kid's going to
sense.
walk into the room. I think we can be slightly different, and I think there's a lot of the audience who wants Christmas movies that feel a little bit more grown up. I don't want to say adult because that makes it sound like the Red Shoe Diaries or something, but they are looking for, a little more spice with their eggnog. And we're
Yeah.
really happy to lean in because again, it
Hmm.
feels like something that they're not getting elsewhere and that we want to provide. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
watching
It is
those
fun.
dailies.
Yeah, and you're smart to focus on the dudes because yes, these movies are all featuring a lead female performance, but I think that they tune in for the dudes just as much, if not more so.
Well, and
I
I
really do.
really like working with Sarah and Autumn, the producer, because they've been great about bringing us some really fresh faces. I mean, while there's a ton of value in returning talent, and obviously there's plenty of people that we work with over and over again, I think it's great to see some new guys.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have some younger talent, which is nice too.
We were
You
kind of
know.
I'm not saying that anybody is too old to in a movie on Lifetime. Not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But it was great to see some fresh new faces and be mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's how you get new favorites is
hoping.
well, very good. I'm definitely excited about the slate. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We like to end our interviews with some fun get to know you questions. So, as your rapid
Okay.
fire, the first one is what is your favorite holiday drink?
Still Diet Coke.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay,
you're
good.
wrong.
Okay. What is your
Sorry.
what is your favorite holiday cookie or treat?
Oh, I love a peppermint bark. I have
Oh, okay,
power
good.
over that stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry.
What is your favorite classic Christmas movie?
Oh, easy. The the Red Ryder BB gun. Oh my gosh,
Oh, Christmas Story.
A Christmas Story.
Christmas
My
Story.
brother looked exactly like Ralphie when we were little,
Oh.
and everyone mistook him for him, and he would get stopped on the street and asked if he was Ralphie. Like, so not only did we love the movie, but like we grew up with a Ralphie in the house, and everyone always, yeah.
That's cute. Okay, which do you like better, Scrooge or the Grinch?
Um, hmm, Scrooge,
Okay. Which do you like better, clear lights or colored?
colored.
Okay. Would you rather be in a snowball fight or build a snowman?
Build a snowman.
Okay, good. Okay,
Okay.
would you consider yourself a good gift wrapper?
Yes,
Okay, good. Last question, do you have an ugly Christmas sweater?
I do not.
You're there in California, you don't really need one.
I don't need a lot of sweaters.
Very good. You did it. You answered all the questions.
Hey, probably not that well, but okay.
But thank you so much for coming and talking with us. We sure appreciate it. And good luck with the season. It's
Yeah,
gonna be fun to
thank you,
see how it
Rachel.
plays
We're
out.
we're happy to be here. We'll get you some copies of some movies so that you can
Yeah.
see and share and tell the world. And we're really fired up with what we have, and I'm excited for people to come watch.
That'll
So
be awesome. It'll be awesome. And yeah, we'll put all the links. People can go check out everything Lifetime. And thanks again. I hope we have a very Merry Christmas.
yeah, you too.
We'd like to thank Tia for coming on the podcast. This was so much fun to get to talk with her and get to hear all about the great slate coming to Lifetime. So let us know what you think about all the different things we talked about. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, all of our social media, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We really, really, really appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our Patreon group and merch store. So make sure to check out that. And thanks again to Tia and to Lifetime. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.